Hi, this is Deanna Kosaraji with Global Tech Women. I hope you're enjoying Voices so far. We've had a number of amazing sessions, and this one is just as amazing. It is called Pixels, Paint, and Passion, Technology and the Creative Edge. I know a number of you women in technology are also very artistic, and so we look forward to hearing this great panel and how they're combining art and technology. So take it away.
Thank you, Deanna. As Deanna said, we are Pixels, Paint, and Passion, Technology and the Creative Edge. Thank you for joining us today. You are? I'll get back to me.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Denise Howard.
Hi, I'm Namratha Prithviraj.
Hi, I'm Shubha Prithviraj.
And I'm Carrie Zeidman. So as most of you know, there's been tremendous advancements in technologies that aid in creating art. New technologies that open doors to innovative ideas and new ways for artists to create. In this session, we're artists from various backgrounds, and we're going to be talking about how to use technology in creating art, how to use technology in promoting art, and how our passion for art influences our technical careers or academics, and how technology and art complement each other. As I said, I'm Carrie Zeidman. I've been an artist most of my life. Even as a child, I was creating art. But as a career, I did 25 plus years as a commercial artist and illustrator, mostly in the Silicon Valley high-tech industry. I'm an award-winning digital artist and photographer. And I've just published my first book called Ghosts, Images of War, that contains my artwork and history of the different conflicts. In 2013, I was named Cupertino's Distinguished Artist of the Year.
And I'm Denise Howard. I'm a senior software engineer. I've been in the software industry for many, many years in a variety of fields, from aerospace to entertainment, using a lot of different programming languages over the time. But my other half, and I don't consider it my hobby, I consider it my other career, is art. And so I have both, I have bachelor's degrees in both computer science and art. And I'm involved in traditional media, particularly colored pencil. I'm very involved in the colored pencil art community. And I'm a member of the Colored Pencil Society of America and president of the San Francisco chapter.
Hi, I'm Shubha Prithviraj. I'm a product manager at HP, and I have over 18 years of experience in the IT industries. I have worked in various fields like flight simulator, automotive, digital TV, and I've developed software for them. And also, at present, I'm in the printing and the web platform. At the same time, I'm also an artist, and I'm an executive member at Fine Art League of Cupertino. I'm basically an engineer, and I hold a degree in General Management program from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore.
Hi, I'm Namratha Prithviraj. I'm a junior at Monta Vista High School, and I also do computer science in my school. I'm also an exhibiting member at Fine Arts League of Cupertino, and I've been doing art since I was 4, and I have been inspired to do art from my travels and whatever, my surroundings. And I'm an organizer of Arcus, which is an art exhibition and competition. And it's been held for 3 years, and it's in India. And our goal is to inspire kids to do art and to learn art.
Okay, so what we'd like to do now is just show you a little more about what we each do, explain how we use technology in our artwork, and give you some samples of our particular style of artwork. I'll start with myself. Again, I'm a digital artist. I'm a full-time artist. My work is done almost exclusively on a computer using computer software. I stopped doing the commercial stuff about 8 years ago and started doing just my own fine art. And so I've changed my style a little bit as I go along. The piece in the middle of the gift, it's called Love is a Gift. That is my digital style. It's completely drawn in a software program. It's a vector-based program, so you could blow it up, you could shrink it down, you could do whatever you want. The one to the left of it was of the little girl dancer. That was a little more involved. It had, I used photography to get my pieces, and then I do the digital art on top of that. So it was kind of a transition. And the one in the upper left is also just digital art. But the stuff I've been doing more recently would be the lower right-hand corner, which is a combination of photographs and digital art, where I start with my own photographs and I take pieces from other photographs, and then I use the digital art to change whatever I want to change and create my own unique images. So the way that I use technology in my artwork, as I said, I work exclusively on a computer. I use software programs, lots of different software programs, depending on what I'm trying to create. And I use that to manipulate photos, to draw the artwork, and to create whatever image or effect I'm trying to do. I draw the images directly into the computer, which gives me, like I said, the vector format, which allows me the flexibility of blowing things up or making them whatever size I want. And I also can use social media to promote my artwork, and I don't have to worry about photographing my artwork. It's already digitized, which is a good plus on the internet, because then I can just put it wherever I need to do it.
And again, I'm Denise, and as I mentioned before, I work primarily with colored pencils. So these are some examples of my colored pencil artwork. All 4 of these drawings are 100% colored pencil. So obviously very traditional medium, just pencil on paper. I really like the idea of I like the tactile sensation of working with pencil to paper, and it's a world away from my software career. I'm attracted to imagery I find in the natural world. I only work from my own photographs, and the natural world really speaks to me. I grew up on a farm, so I still have that connection. And the details that I find, one of the things I like about colored pencil is that it allows me the degree of control I need to really get into those details, because then people will look for those details in my artwork that they wouldn't look for if it was a photograph or it was something out in nature itself. So I hope to encourage them to take a closer look at the real world that way. And so the way I use technology is to compose and adjust imagery that I'm going to work from, because although I work from photographs, they are not strictly from photographs. There's always things that I change about my subject as I'm working up my finished artwork. I use technology, things like Photoshop, to adjust the imagery before I do my artwork. And again, once my artwork is complete, to digitize my finished artwork, to be able to put images on my website, to be able to make G-clay prints from my artwork, cards. I use things like Illustrator to prepare signage for exhibitions and documents, and I use social media, things like Facebook and LinkedIn to promote my artwork.
Hi, I'm Shubha again. So most of my artworks are influenced by the travels I've made till now. So I'm a click photographer, so I keep on clicking wherever I go. And I bring back my photographs, and I make a collage of my photographs and look at them and see what looks best for my paintings. And all the 3 on the left side are all of them are photographed by me, and I've just made acrylic painting out of them. And another favorite style of art is painting a Lord Ganesha here. So this is the style where I want to really dress up Ganesha with jewels, with the detailed work. So this is another style of painting I do using acrylic painting. And in order to do that, so it is very time-consuming work. So I'm going to explain how I did using technology. So the most important work for making this kind of detailed artwork is to draw them in with ultimate detail, and which is to take a long time for me before. So what I have done is I used a system called Sprout. So this is a new product from HP. So which projects the photograph or any artwork into a screen. So from which I can just trace them very easily. So I use that technique to trace my photo onto the canvas. And then I took the print of my reference drawing using a printer. And then I use that for just painting in detail on using acrylic paint here. Apart from that, so I just finally, once I'm done, so I have to use technology to make digital images for posting them on social media and website. So this is another way I'm using technology to publish my artwork.
Hi again, I'm Namratha, and I usually use acrylic to do all my paintings, but I've used oil for one and only one painting, and that was my first one, which is in the far left corner. And for the rest, the other three, they're all from acrylic. And I love to have 4 different canvases connected to make one painting, like the one on the far top right corner, and the one in the middle. And the one in the far right bottom corner is inspired from one of my travels to New York. And I use technology in changing the composition before painting, and to also see what color suits the painting. And growing up in a generation that uses a lot of technology, I get a lot of inspiration from the internet and whatever I see using my technology. And for the painting, I print out the reference before to help me out with the process. And I also would like to publish my artwork on social media and also on my website.
So thank you for filling us in, and now you know a little bit about how we work. We'd like to just have a discussion about particular topics related to art and technology. We're going to start with how have advances in technology changed your creation process, and if so, how? Denise, would you like to start that one?
Sure. So advances in technology don't inspire me, but they have made my life easier as far as preparing for doing my traditional type artwork, and for being able to do things like apply or submit entries for art shows. Most art shows these days, competitive exhibitions, require you to either email or your imagery or send them in on a CD, something like that, and they have very specific requirements about the image size and the file format, and it makes it really easy to satisfy those requirements. And it's made it easy for me to produce my own prints of my work too. Once the originals are framed and on the wall, then I can also make giclée prints for sale. That makes the price point a little easier for people to afford. And a lot of those I'm able to do at home because I have a really nice Epson printer, and I've got the software to produce them, and it produces prints that are so good they look like the original.
It's amazing what they've come up with over the last few years. Being a commercial artist for years, I had to work with service bureaus for my color proofs or films, which they don't use anymore for printing. All that kind of stuff, I had to rely on the service bureaus. I now have that technology in my office. Yep. And also just I think my biggest thing has been digital cameras. Yeah. I mean, being a photographer, in the old days you had 12 or 14 shots on your camera. You didn't even know how they were going to come out till you paid for the prints, and then you had to do something with the prints. You had no way of really doing much with them. You had to go to a service place to blow them up unless you had your own dark room. All these things have just made it so much easier for us to take what we've got in our heads or in our minds and put that out there for other people to enjoy.
Yeah, for me, and growing up in that generation that uses a lot of technology, I'm always on my phone, I'm always on my computer. I have to use it for school too. So I'm always on the internet, so it inspires me to do different kind of art, and it's helpful for me as in inspiring me to see from the things I see, and it's easier to. Your
generation has so much more at your fingertips than we ever dreamed of having in our generation. We had a library where you could go and look at books, or just go out into nature, and you were limited to whatever was around you. If you were lucky enough to be able to travel, you get to see some other environment. But now with the internet, you could just type in a word and go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you can go to Google Images and type in crow flying, and 500 photos show up in different angles of crows flying for references.
So Shubha, how does it change yours?
For me also, like similar to your experience of, like, I used to really take photographs using film cameras, and it used to take days together, and finally I had really wait for days to really get it back and then make a film, make a design out of it. And also for me, another thing was that making the design itself, as I said, the drawing used to take so many days together to first draw it and trace it onto the paper, and then we make the painting. So like the one I showed, the Ganesha, which last time when I did it, it took me around 10 sessions to really make one. So but with this new technique, I will just do it within 4 sessions, and also feel good that it's still the original art it made might be. So I feel it's really increased the productivity of us, that we can make more paintings in a shorter time now.
Right. There's just amazing new toys out there. So now we're going to talk about how our work in technology influences our creative side, so the other side of that coin. And Shubha, would you like to tell us how it influences your creative side?
Yeah, so because I'm working in technology, as I said, so because I use the printing, I'm in the printing and also using the Sprout. So that is like influencing my creative side. So I'm because I know how to plan out things, and because I'm able to work with something with unplanned activities. So I'm coming up with a detailed plan, and then I'm able to put that into my creative side also, because I know what to expect after some certain time. So that's how it has influenced my creative side, I can say.
Yeah, that goes for me too. When we're coding, we have to plan out how you're going to do everything, and helps with creating art too, because you would plan out the color scheme or like what goes where, and it turns out better rather than doing everything and then figuring out, oh, maybe I should have put it there. And it makes everything easier.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess for me, it's my work in high tech has influenced me in a little different way on the creative side, in that with software, everything is very detail oriented and very precise, and of course the computer will only do exactly what you told it to do, whether that was the right thing or not. And so that's sort of carried over into my artwork being detailed too. And I don't know, maybe the influence went the other way. Maybe that's why I was attracted to the software industry. But I see that happen. And then the other thing I wanted to mention on that topic was that a lot of times when I'm showing my artwork, there will be people that will ask me, oh, well, if you're in the software industry, why don't you do digital art? And I always tell them, I said, that's the last thing I want to do, because I spend all day working in the software industry at a computer. So if I go to do something else, I want it to be traditional media, to
something a little different.
Put
use a different part of the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, I don't have a problem because I do strictly digital art. I am on the computer, and I don't have a technology background, but it has influenced me. I am also very control oriented. I'm a bit of a control freak in my artwork, and the technology allows me to do that. Allows me to, like, in my artwork, I have to work with a lot of layers, and I have to make sure I keep them in the right order, and I plan ahead, and so I'm doing a lot of the planning too. But I think the biggest influence that technology has had over my creative side is, like I said, the digital camera. I am now free to try things and shoot the same subject from 6 different ways, with the settings in different ways, so that
dozens of angles,
dozens of settings. It's amazing. Just opening the aperture a little bit more gives you a completely different look. And then I can take those thousands of photographs that I've taken on whatever trip I took, and I can pop that in the computer, and I have all of those to play with and to inspire me. And you couldn't have done that before digital cameras came out. So on the other side, how does your creative side influence your technical career?
Well, last year I created a really simple game with Java, and it was really helpful for me because it was a math game, and not a lot of people would like to play it. But then I used my art knowledge into making it more presentable, and like the color scheme, more attractive. And the color scheme actually affected how people saw it, and I asked people to play the game, and they thought that the colors helped, and the way everything was put together, it helped them be more involved in the game, and they liked it. It was not that boring anymore.
So it's much more user-friendly user interface.
Yeah, and I can totally relate to that, because typically on a team, a software development team, we'll have first the developers and the QA people, but then you'll also have UI, user interface, and user experience designers. And a lot of times in an environment, the software development people and the UI designers don't quite get each other. Yeah. But for me, coming from a combined art and computer science background, I feel like speak the language, and they
can interpret for them.
They pretty quickly pick up on that.
Yeah, because you need both sides. Yeah, it's got to work, but it's got to look good.
Yeah, and I can contribute ideas and suggestions about colors or the layout that maybe they hadn't thought of, and we make a better product that way.
Yeah, I think so. People have to be attracted to it. If you're going to sell something, people have to be attracted to it first, and then it has to work once they buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the creative side has really influenced the software career as a developer, saying that. So when I was doing the flight simulator, so I had to imagine how the flight will look in 3D. So by putting an equation. So I was analyzing how it would behave, and I had really show it as how it would be out to an external from the external angle, and without being an artist or without having that imaginary view of how these things will look, so it would have been tough for me. But I was able to develop that software, and I know that that software was used for nearly more than 7 years, because I got a call in. After 7 years from I had moved out of that, saying that we're still using your software to really visualize things. So,
wow!
So that was I felt really great. So another
7 years is a long time
for software. Yeah.
So another thing was when I had to do some online graphs, and so I had to really see how the XY position would look, and then I had to really imagine first before really showing it onto the screen. So it made it very easy for me to visualize things, because I always visualize things as a creative artist. So it was easy for me to develop the software quickly for that. So, and similarly in the current job I've got, so because I'm being creative, I'm using a lot of technology, as I showed the Sprout or printing. So I really use it as a real user. So any other the normal user. And I raise bugs, I keep calling the customer support saying that, okay, this is a issue in the system. Yeah. So I use it this way, reading print, and I just was using Sprout, and it was not showing the picture I wanted it to show. So it's really helping.
It's a nice advantage being a user and a creator, because then you can see what the problems would be from the user point of view. And I wonder about designers sometimes, because I'll get software and I think, did they use this?
Yeah.
They would have seen this if they try this. And sometimes I wonder. So it's a nice advantage. Yeah. I don't really have much to say about this, because I don't really have a technical career. I am an artist, and so I use the technology, but I don't have a technical career. So we're going to move on to how does technology help you with marketing exposure? So I can start this one. I use technology and marketing exposure a lot, because being a digital artist, like I said, I already have my artwork in digital format. I can change it to, as Denise said, whatever format and size and ratio or whatever they need for art contests, for submitting it to different places, putting it on Facebook. You have to know what you're doing to put it on Facebook, so you don't put high-res versions up that are too big, or too low-res that look too bad. You have to know how that works, what a pixel is, what a ratio is, what a JPEG is versus a TIFF versus a Photoshop file.
API versus DPI.
API versus DPI. That's a really important one that people don't get, and it's a problem if they don't. But there's so many places out there now that you can market yourself. There's dozens of websites. There's the big ones, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's LinkedIn, there's Pinterest, there's lots of places. If you're a member of different groups, like we are a member of the Fine Arts League of Cupertino, they have a website. We can post our artwork there and advertise to other artists or people interested in art. So it's very helpful to be able to do that, and technology has allowed us to have more voice and more exposure out there than artists have had ever. So it is a great thing.
Yeah. Well, and sort of the flip side of that too, it's possible to be overexposed when somebody steals your artwork off of the web. So technology has also provided ways for you to digitally embed either a visible watermark or a digital watermark into your work to try to prevent that from happening. And I make use of that. I always have to make sure before I post anything to the web, like Facebook or some of the other websites like that, I make sure to downsample my image, not only downsize but downsample the images so that they're small enough they can't really be used. They can't really be printed out on anything without looking bad. And then furthermore, they've got my name plastered across the middle, so somebody would have to get past that too if they
That's
really
one of the
wanted to steal it.
advantages of
The technology
the
lets you do
screen
that.
versus printing, because
Yeah.
the screen is 72 dots per inch, and it looks great on the screen, but nobody can print it out
Right.
because 72 looks awful printed out.
Yeah, that's becoming more and more important because I personally know artists that have had their artwork stolen, and next thing they know, products are being shipped from China with their artwork on them.
Yeah, actually, for me, it's just the simple things. Well, I don't market a lot, but then even when we go meet other people, when we're talking about art and me doing art, I just pull up my phone and show them the link of my website.
And the
then-
portable portfolio, it's
Yeah.
awesome. Yes.
It's pretty simple. They see my artwork, and then it's better than taking your artwork everywhere.
I've still got my big heavy portfolio at home that I used to. Once you get an appointment, then you got to schlep that down there and get them to look at it. But yeah, you're at a meeting or an event, just whip it out, show them your artwork.
Yeah.
I've tried to get into the habit of doing that if I attend an art reception or opening of a show where I've got a piece or two in the show, and I try to make sure to take my iPad along where I've got the full res images. So if anybody happens to say, "Oh, I really like this. Well, what other artwork do you do?" I can say, "Well, as a matter of fact, I've got it right there." So having that portability really helps.
Yeah, for me, like I wouldn't have got connected to you all if we didn't have any exposure. So because social media is a major thing where we get the exposure, and like I got and when I moved from India to here, so I shown interest in developing something, but I didn't know where to go. So, but through my Facebook friends and then other media, so I was able to really connect to some artists. And through that, I got to know finally of Cupertino. So it was very easy to really connect with the community with using technology, which would have been very tough earlier because I have tried this connections even when I was in India before Facebook ages. So it was very difficult for me to really make contacts and make communities out of this. But after I moved here, and it's just because it's not just I moved here, it's because of the social media and the technology has made it so easier for us to connect with each other and then have this influence because we tend to develop more as we see each other doing it. So because it's really helping us a lot
I had the same experience with when I was writing my book that I've done. Part of it was going to these different sites where the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, World War I, World War II, and I wanted to have off the beaten path kind of places. And the best place to find that information was I went to LinkedIn, and they have these subgroups on LinkedIn where I could go to art history and military history and that sort of thing. And I would put it out there when I would get ready to plan to go on a trip. And I'd say, I'm going on this Civil War trip. Anybody got any great ideas? And people would write me back about these really cool places that I would never have known about otherwise. And one of my favorites was when I was going to Pearl Harbor, and I put it out there, and one of my LinkedIn buddies turned out to be a Pearl Harbor survivor that actually wrote me back and said, oh, you've got to see this, you've got to see that. And that was just really special for me. And so I have these cool places in the book that I would never have known about. Okay. Have seen a negative bias towards art created using technology. Actually, this one I have, unfortunately. I will have shows where I will have my artwork hanging up on the wall, and people will come into my booth and they're just like, "That's so beautiful! I just really love that." And is it oil or is it acrylic? And I'll say, it's a digital art. And I say, well, what does that mean? And I'll say, well, it's created using software on a computer. And they're like, oh, it's like all of a sudden it's like I've cheated somehow by using the computer, and I don't understand that. I think it's changing somewhat, but it's like I created something that was not there before.
You started out with a blank
I
canvas.
started out with a blank canvas like anybody else. I created something that was not there before, and 2 seconds ago you loved it, and now all of a sudden you find out it's created using a computer, and it's lost some value somehow. And also, you know, when I first started out, I would apply to shows, and they wouldn't know what category to put me in. So I wound up in mixed media or photography or something, and I don't fit in those categories. So it was really awkward. Now there's more digital art categories in different places, like open studios and different art shows will have a digital category. But there are still some where I'll apply for an art show and I'll look and there will be, you know, digital art not accepted.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's like,
I don't understand why. It's like, why wouldn't it be accepted?
It's a new category. It's, you know, it's art. It's creative. I don't know, but I have run into that. I mean, have any of you guys ever found anything like that? You're more traditional, but
yes, you're more traditional. I don't think I have faced it because just because we are just producing the similar style, it's old style, but maybe we're using new techniques to develop them. But still, the style is still old.
Plus, you guys also have the original and you have the prints. And the original is always worth so much more than the prints in the art world, which is fine. But I don't have an original. My original is all ones and zeros. Mine are all prints. I mean, and so what I try to do is I try to print giclées or limited editions. And so, you know, I'm only printing 10 of these, and they're high-end giclées, so they will last forever. And that way I can at least sell them for something other than what you could get for a poster, which would be the prints.
That is interesting. There'd be that bias that way, because even with digital photography, you don't have an original. It's all ones and zeros. It's in the computer or on a file or whatever.
Photography seems to be the exception.
Yeah, but of course photography went through growing pains like that too. Exactly. Originally, people didn't see photography as real art, and so they would have their own shows, and then eventually, of course, now most art shows will have a category for photography as well.
They do, but I think there's still some ignorance of what goes into photography out there. A lot of people think, oh, anybody can take a picture. You just,
point shoot.
They don't realize the creativity that goes into it. The composition, the lighting, the style, even the post-production.
The choice of subject.
All of that. It's like there's a really big difference between, somebody's vacation photos. You're not going to see grandma's 50th birthday party on the cover of National Geographic. I mean, there is a big difference between a professional photographer shooting a really fabulous subject and somebody taking their camera out and shooting pictures of the dandelions in the field or something. And I think people are starting to realize that a little bit more, but it's starting to open up from the photography end of it. From the digital end of it, there's still the bias there.
I'm guessing that will change as people realize that just because you have a little paint program on your computer that you can make digital art with, that's nothing like what you do at like a professional level with professional tools.
Even if you have the tools, you still have to know how to use it.
Right.
Anybody can go to Home Depot and buy a hammer. That doesn't mean you know how to design a house.
Yeah.
True. And you do run into that, and you have to know what you're doing. I when I first was in commercial art, and I started before we had computers to work with, but once the computers came out and people had all these programs on a computer, and a customer would come to me and say, I need, a data sheet or something, and I'd say, this is how much it's going to be to do that, design it, lay it out, that kind of thing. I said, well, we have this guy in our office, he's got, Mac Paint and something, he could do it for $25 an hour or something. I was like, let him go for it. I usually hear back from them in a couple weeks when they're panicking because the conference is coming up and they don't have anything to work with, because you still have to know how to use the tools. Just because the tools change. They came out with power tools. Great, you got a power saw. You don't have to stand there and do it by hand now, but you're still producing something with it. You have to know how to use it.
So hopefully that bias will continue to change for the positive.
I would hope so. So. Our final question that we want to discuss was how we all keep up with the current technology, because we all know it changes at lightning speed. You take a vacation, you come back, and there's new technology that that you learn. So there's lots of ways to keep up with it. How do you keep up with it?
You want to take a shot?
Yeah, so as I was like, I always want to see what's coming new. So one is I've signed up for various pages on Facebook, and actually, like any skill we develop, it needs a continuous sharpening. It's a kind of cleaning up, unlearning few things which we have done past, and learning new things. So I take a few courses. So these days it's made very easy to take these online courses. So we don't have to sit in the class and do it. We can do it on in our own pace. So I signed up for some photography courses online, so which is a 4 weeks course, and then I can take the pictures and then post it back, and I get the review from the tutor. So it's made very easy for me to do it at my own pace. So similarly, I keep looking at some of these techniques on YouTube, because there's a lot of learning over there, because video makes it more easier than really reading pages of instructions in a book. So I keep signing up, and so it's kind of, I want to make sure that I get positively influenced by each of these and do my own style after seeing that. So I keep I have kind of many of the YouTube channels I've signed up for, so that I can just get the new updates and
also do it at your own pace too. Like if you're in a seminar, you can't say wait,
Yeah.
go back over that again. Yeah, this one you can pause it, back it up, watch it as you need.
Yes, so that's how I'm keeping up with the technology.
Yeah, that was how I learned to use Photoshop, actually. Photoshop's one of those things. It's a professional tool. It's got thousands of things you can do with it.
Big learning curve on it.
It's a big learning curve, and so I'm so glad I saw fit to. I took a series of 3. They were online classes, like you were saying, through local community college, but they were Photoshop classes specifically. And boy, that was the best money I ever spent, because now I can. I still have to go back and remember how I did that, but I know how to do non-destructive edits and all that kind of thing now. So taking classes and like Shubha said, YouTube videos, but I've actually found sort of another unusual way to keep up, and there's a paper company that I buy paper from for the cards, the note cards that I print of my work, and they're called Red River Paper. And you know how when you get on somebody's mailing list, you get email from them forevermore. But they're smart. They figured out how to get you to actually read their emails, because at the bottom of every email they send out that's got an ad at the top, they have a whole bunch of links that they have gathered from around the internet that has interesting things that people that use their papers might be interested in. It can be a new tutorial that's come out, a review of some new printer that's come out, just all sorts of things like that, or a group of tips that somebody has come up with for how to best manipulate a certain type of imagery, and all sorts of things like that.
I've used their paper too, and I get their emails. Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah,
their paper's great too.
Yeah.
The only place I ever found 2-sided 13x19 photo paper. So
yeah,
that's how I got involved with that. Yeah, they do have great stuff.
So yeah, it's kind of funny how that's become sort of a non-traditional way to keep up on what's going on, just reading their spam mail.
I think I go a more traditional route. I do get a lot of mine online too, but I also have several magazines that I get. I get a lot of photography magazines, Photoshop User magazine, lots of these that I really like, because I can read them at my own pace. There's always some cool new technique, and somebody's demonstrating it, and there'll be photos there and step-by-step of how to create this new technique in Photoshop or Illustrator or other photo editing. I have probably a half a dozen programs that I use. And also in between these interesting articles are ads for the coolest, latest new filters, or the coolest, latest new lenses for the camera, or lighting, or even just photo trips that you can go on, where you can hang around with a bunch of other photo walks that, where you're all there to take pictures, and that's always kind of fun. So there's lots of different ways of keeping up with it.
Yeah, well, for me, I watch a lot of YouTube videos too, and I get updated on that. And then also, I know about new technology from my school and from my peers, and we keep talking about different things every day, whatever's new, whatever's the new trending thing, and then that's how I know about all the new technology and whatever's new in which area, and even
word of mouth.
Yeah. And then we also have a lot of new classes getting added in our school, and with that, the teachers inform us about the new cool ways of doing something, and yeah, it's like
Oh, word of mouth is good too, because a lot of times the benefit to word of mouth is that you get it from somebody who's used it.
Yes. Yes.
And they can tell you, wow, this was really great. It worked great for me. Or just as important, don't bother paying for this because it's horrible and it was a waste of money and whatever. So you get these really good reviews from people who've used it. So, and that's where a lot of the online social media comes in too, because not only do you have your own little group at school that talks about these things that you're all interested in, but you can get online and look up reviews of things, and there's millions of people all over the world who have used it and have thought enough to get on there and put their opinion on there about, whether it was good or bad, and you can get a really pretty accurate idea of whether you're going to like the product or not.
Yeah.
So that's a real big advantage.
It's not just the ads these days, it's just the going through the reviews.
Yeah, they're always going to tell you this is the greatest thing, you should have this. It's definitely worth twice as much as you're going to pay for it. But to have somebody who's actually used it say, yes, this was a great deal, it helped me a lot, it did this for me, and to have thousands of people say that.
Because there's all too much both software and hardware out there that's coming out that they put as many features into it as they could, but they didn't really work out how to make it usable.
And I think we've all probably had experiences, I'm assuming, with bad software. I had one time that I upgraded to a software program. I upgraded to this other program, and I spent 2 weeks doing this project. It was almost like a 30-page project. It was due that weekend, and all of a sudden it just died. And I couldn't get it back. I couldn't do anything. I wound up having to completely rebuild it. And I got online at that point and looked around, and everybody else was having the same problem with that upgrade of that software. And I was thinking, do you test this before you put it out? Because it's so damaging when it's bad. And especially if you think about, I paid money for this. And so it's really bad. So word of mouth is, those reviews are great. And technology helps us get those reviews, much more accurate, because you get a much bigger sampling than just your own social group. So what we thought we'd do is take a little bit of time and take questions from anybody who's watching. If you have a question, Deanna is going to be fielding the questions for us, and we'd be happy to answer them for you.
So hi everybody. When you came online, I put you all on mute. But if you want to ask a question, you can just go down to the bottom and take yourself off mute to ask the question, or you can go into the chat window. I'm going to put myself on mute because you'll be hearing my daughter make cereal right now, and I want to hear that. So the wonders of being a mother, and technology.
It allows you to stay at home and be a mother and facilitate a worldwide conference while your daughter's in the kitchen making cereal. So that's a bonus for technology right there.
Definitely. But I think this is amazing work. I find it incredible how so many women are pursuing art and technology and leveraging both sides of their brain to create beautiful things, beautiful pieces of art. So I'm just really admire the work that you're doing. And I hope that women will watch the recording as well. I know a number of women who are technologists as well as artists who should be watching this session, and I'll be sure to forward this to them when we put the recording up.
That'd be great.
Does anybody have any questions? Quiet. They're probably contemplating what they're going to do next. After looking at your samples, I'm just thinking I clearly need more practice. So
it takes a lot of practice. I know that I've taught myself this my own style, and I did it mostly as a commercial illustrator. And then when I decided to do fine art, I just kind of poured it over my style into the fine art world, which, by the way, I thought I was going to be able to just jump right in because I had all this experience and all these connections in the commercial field, but that didn't work out so well. It was like I had no connections. I had to start at the bottom all over again. But I did use the same style and then kind of tweak that a little bit. So it does take a long time, but you do kind of learn new things as you're going along.
Yeah, I think one question that it's possible that some of the viewers of this might have is if you're working full time as a in technology as a software engineer or PM or whatever, how in the world do you still have time to create art? And especially, like I said, for me, art is not my hobby, it's my other career. How in the world do you balance that? And some people say,
you're having to make that decision now.
Yeah. So, but I actually just wrote a blog post about this last night about some tips about how you can still create a time space in your busy schedule to do that. It's things like don't think about working big, work small, make little things that you can finish in a short amount of time. Make set aside a little space in your home that's your dedicated little art space where your table and your tools are just right there already set up all the time, so that you don't have to think about, oh, well, it'll take me 10 minutes to set up and 10 minutes to just make sure it's right there all the time, inviting you to sit down and do it. And if you're tired at the end of the day or you don't feel like drawing, tell yourself just 30 minutes, just 30 minutes. And you can be surprised how much you can get done by working in those little increments of time. They all add up.
Well, so once you get into it, if you like me, I'll say 30 minutes and I'll get into it. Next thing
3 hours,
4 hours later,
That's what I worry about.
I've done that before. I had an oil painting class one time where I'd start coming to the class and I'd start working, and next thing I know, everybody's gone. It's dark outside. There might have been 2 other classes gone through while I was working. I don't know.
But for me, it's like, I look at my old photographs when to get inspired. So because what I've created is mine. So it's there for so many years. Like when my mom has kept it for so many years in her house. So it's like, if I create now, I know that's going to last for so many years. So that's how I get the
It's your legacy.
So, and it's my own, something I created by myself. And it's like,
also, if you look back at it with a different frame of mind, from a different point of view in your life, sometimes a lot of times things will look very different. You get inspired by it.
Yeah, that's true. So there's a question on the chat. So this is from a good friend of Global Tech Women's, Sarabi. Hi, Sarabi.
Hi, Sarabi.
Hi. At some companies, front-end developers who speak both the languages of art and engineering are sometimes looked down upon relative to back-end engineering. It's as if somehow making things clearer and easier to understand makes it less complicated or impressive. Have you encountered this? If yes, how have you dealt with it?
I ran into that a little bit when I used to design websites. I would have the people in the office. It was my job to make it look good, pick the colors, the fonts, that kind of thing. And I had people in the office come up to me and tell me that they don't like the font, or their friends don't like the color or something. And I'm the professional doing this, and they think I should just go along with whatever they think or their friends think, and not really respect the fact that I have experience in this and I know what I'm talking about, and the font is fine. And so I did run into that some in companies.
I've seen a little bit of the kind of bias that you're talking about. I think so-called front-end engineers actually get paid a little less than back-end engineers. And so the idea being supposedly that server-side development is much heavier and more complicated than front-end application development. And that's a good question. I don't know how we're ever going to resolve that difference, because those of us that do front-end development do know that it can be really complicated to develop like special widgets that don't normally exist with that framework that you're using. You're having to figure out how to
interface with that back end person who thinks, oh, they're just going to make all the bells and whistles, and you could just make it look good.
Yeah. So that's a good question.
Yeah, for me, actually, I handle the platform, so I have also come across this so we always say that we are the backend team is doing the more complicated work, but I have dealt that. So when I had to really give comments on the UI work, so I had to be, I really had to put my words, because engineering language is different. They say, okay, this is how it works, because I can easily put it, this makes my job easier. But when I had to really comment on the UI, I had to really say, no, doesn't look good. So I had to really make some tweaks, saying that I just put a screen, so this is how it looks in the screen, and this is how I was very easily able to make this change and show it to them. So this is how it will going to be easy for the user. And I got a better appreciation, or there was a buy-in for my my thoughts, because I came from the background of UI development or the view of UI. So it was easy for me to convince them than it would have been otherwise. So it is kind of go with the conviction and then talk to them, and then I feel it works out well. So that's my advice to you.
I had a bit of an advantage when I was doing commercial work, because I would go out and I would work with, I have to talk to engineers a lot of time because I would be illustrating or doing something with them. My husband is an engineer, and so I hear a lot of engineering, and we talk a lot, and so I've almost learned the language.
Osmosis.
Just by talking, yeah. And I've actually played them at conferences. I get to go play an engineer, very, very little bit, but it allowed me to be able to go into a meeting and say, your UI is not that user friendly, and and I know the terms to use. So there's a little bit of a translation thing there that I was able to speak both languages.
Yeah.
So that helped. I mean, not from a technical point of view, but from just talking.
Yeah. Well, another way they should look at that too is that if really good UI design is so easy and so unimportant, perhaps, then why is Apple now the world's most valuable company?
Yeah. Good point. You need both. It's got to look good and be user friendly,
right.
and it's got to work. You leave either one out, and it's really not good.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I can add just a little piece of that, I think, leadership really has to value user interface and the design, because we all have worked with products that were just absolutely not designed well, and were done a lot on the back end just to get the job done, and they thought that's all that was needed.
Yeah.
So just having the support of a group that understands its value is critical to your success. And if you're not finding that, you need to find people in your organization who do value it and get that support, because you'll drive yourself crazy if you don't have that kind of support. So, all right, well, I'm going to wrap this up because we have another session right after this, and they're already pinging me wondering where I am. So the next session is on how to support and maintain and grow a women in tech group, or some people call these, what do they call them? Employee resource groups, ERGs, I think is what HR people call these. But how do you create these women in tech support groups in your organizations, and how do you make them thrive? So that's our next topic of conversation. So we hope that you all jump over on our next session in about 6 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Jana. So we have had great time giving this presentation, and we had great time doing it together. So
yes,
thank you
very much for putting us
Great.
together.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye, world.
Bye.